I'm sorry. Okay.
No.
Hey guys, welcome back to Scream Queen Stream Hot Tub Horror Movie Review. So today we are going to be talking about Extrodinary Tales, which is a film currently available on
Netflix.
various platforms, including Netflix. It's basically Raul Garcia's Extraordinary Tales is an animated anthology film of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, narrated by luminaries like Christopher Lee, Guillermo del Toro, and Bela Lugosi himself. To be blunt, it's kind of a whole hot mess.
What?
Christopher Lee reading Edgar Allan Poe. Sign me up. That's according to this actual review.
Wait,
that I'm
what?
reading from. I know.
You said it was a hot mess.
I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, but...
Well, that's dumb. It was not a hot mess.
Really? You don't?
No.
Okay. Let's just jump into it. Basically, here's the reality. It's 5 short films that Edgar Allan Poe wrote that are encompassed by a narrative of an actual overall anthology featuring a raven and a statue that represents death.
Yeah, the raven is Edgar Allan Poe, and the statue that he's coming to fly and sit on. And it's also in a cemetery. It's all animated. This isn't
The whole thing is animated. So each of the 5
It's animated.
animated.
It's animated.
So each of the 5 stories are animated in a very different style, and then the anthology wraparound is animated in another very different style. The wraparound is actually like a paper version of the anthology, if that makes sense.
No.
Like, it looks like paper. It does. It looks like paper.
It's a very specific style.
It looks like paper.
Animation. It doesn't look like paper, but it's a very basic animation style.
So
I liked it. I thought that was
You
a
all
choice.
know my favorite ginger, Miss Dani Inks.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Keri, that is Keri again. She has not seen the movie, so she might be a little bit more quiet during this part. But she is an Edgar Allan Poe fan.
Edgar Allan Poe?
Edgar Allan Poe. Pope.
Not Pope. Poe.
Poe.
P-O-E.
Here
Apparently Jessica Cameron is not an Edgar Allan Poe fan.
I'm not. So let's just get that out of the...
Apparently
So
we've been
here's the
drinking
thing.
all day.
I like Edgar Allan Poe, but I'm not a super fan by any means. I like him. I appreciate him. I've
You
read
like the
his
idea
books.
of him.
Well, here's the thing. I've read his books many years ago when I was a child. It's been
4 days ago. It's fine.
3, but still. That being said, let's talk about this movie. So it features 5 of his best stories made into short
yes.
films.
He has a lot of good stories, but...
He does. So the first short film is The Fall of Usher. The second short film is The Telltale Heart. The third is, in fact, In Case of M. Valdemar. The fourth is The Pit and the Pendulum. And the fifth is The Mask of the Red Death. So here's the reality. They basically, from what I can understand, acquired these films by various filmmakers over the course of 4 or 5 years. These were not all equal in terms of quality,
But
in my opinion.
I noticed a lot of them were directed by the same guy who directed the whole thing, Raul, is it Garcia?
Yeah.
Is Raul Garcia? Yeah, I noticed in the credits because there's individual credits for each one, and his name was in all of them.
What initially drew me to this project was the amount of horror luminaries that were involved. But when I actually came to watch it, I realized they weren't really that involved. For example, the actual first short film, which was The Fall of Usher, right, was one of the final performances from Christopher Lee. He was the narrator in this movie.
Yeah, Christopher Lee narrated.
But I also...
Fall of Usher. What?
Hammer film fame.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't
He
feel
also
like...
has had,
But
some
what saddens me is I don't feel like his narration added much to the story, and I felt like the first one was one of the weakest parts of the series.
Oh, really? That was
Yeah.
one of my faves.
Really? See, it wasn't mine. For me, it kind of fell flat. I did not feel the illustrations really emphasized the story, or vice versa.
Are you familiar with the story?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not the biggest fan. of Edgar Allan Poe. I appreciated his work, but I would not say I'm a fan. The second short was Telltale Heart, which I felt had a lot of merit. It was like a Sin City style, black and white with a few red pops, that was done in a very graphic illustration to the Bela Lugosi 1940s radio recording of the story.
Yeah, so
and they chose to like keep the story, like they chose to keep the recording for the most part,
original
like
recording
filled with like lots of scratches, lots of ambiance, based on like what the 1940s.
Well, because that's when he recorded it, and obviously they couldn't get a recording now because, you know, he's not around.
So for one, I really liked what they did there, but I feel like it would have been a stronger short as opposed to part of an anthology, because I felt as part of the anthology, it fell flat.
It didn't fall flat. It was out of place, I thought. Just only for any other reason than the just the recording. The recording, because it was an older one, which is nobody's fault. It's from a million years ago. So there are certain things that you can't make sound like a recording today. So, because it was obviously done analog and not digital, because they didn't have digital back
But I was so thankful that they did not try to clean it up, because they would have altered the voice recording, which would have taken away what made it special.
I'm sure they cleaned it up as much as they could have, but there's only so much you can do.
I don't think they cleaned it up at all. Let's really pay that attention. Like, it was fucking scratchy as hell.
Well, yeah, but there's only so much you can do.
No, but that's it. I'm glad that they didn't clean it up more, because I wanted it to stay pure. I wanted it to be, like, representative of what Bela Lugosi did back in the 1940s.
Yeah. That I really liked, and I liked the fact that it was paired with, it was the only one that was in complete black and white, other than the pops of red. I believe there were some pops of red in there.
There was pops of red.
But I like that they paired it with that. It was a little bit out of place, but because the other ones were pretty on point as far as being the same, at least you know, with the narration. Anyway, they were all the same quality, and then that was the only one that was different. So had there been other ones that were different, I would have liked that a little bit better. But there's only so much you can do, because that was Bela Lugosi.
True.
That's when he recorded it.
So the third was the facts in the facts in the case of M. Valdemar, which is a classic story told in the tone of classic comic book style, which featured the narration of Julian Sands, which, if you guys don't know, he's like somebody who's very familiar in the horror world. I love him. I wanted to love this segment, but I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't. To me, like, the illustration did not match the intensity of the narration.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah. Well, I thought it did. I thought it was creepy, as is the story. The story is creepy as fuck, in my opinion. It creeped me out when I first read it whenever I was a kid. I think it was like junior high, early high school, and I was like, oh my god, this is really creepy. I remember, like, it freaking me out, but most Edgar Allan Poe stuff did.
So the fourth was The Pit and the Pendulum, which uses a much more realistic computer-generated style of animation, which I personally loved. For me, this might be my favorite of all of the animation styles. It also was narrated by Guillermo del Toro, which I thought was really powerful.
I did really like him, especially in that particular story, The Pit and the Pendulum.
But again, like, when you're dealing with animation, I'm very sensitive to, like, wait a second, something like, so there's a moment where, spoiler alert, the victim is on top of a set of boards with a fucking swinging pendulum. Exactly. And he narrowly escapes. He rolls off the boards. He breathes a sigh of relief. And then we pull back to a wide animation style, and we don't see the actual bed that he rolled off on. And to me, it's fucking animation. Why did you not make that match?
Because I think it was a choice. I think there was a style choice.
It had to have been.
It was very, like, dreamlike and magical, because it went from, like, here's this pit to you're on a table.
Well,
and
it had to be intentional, right?
And then,
like, I'm not the only person that had to have missed that.
I thought that
where
too.
The fuck were you? And then, like, suddenly he's like, his ground is, like, ripping out from under him.
Well, but it's the same thing. Like, after the ground was ripping out after the pendulum, he fell into the pit, and then all of a sudden you see him just laying on the ground, not dead, like he would be if he actually fell.
The pit and the pendulum.
Yeah. So he fell into the pit, and he's just magically just laying on the ground again and not dead. He just woke up from his sleep. So it's almost like they drugged him and he dreamt all this. That's kind of like.
But I feel like that still made it weaker for me.
Actually, I disagree. That was the least of my favorite animation styles.
Really?
Yeah, because it was too new. These are classic.
It was very modern.
It was super
realistic.
modern.
I would say that one, the Pendulum,
it was realistic.
Was like a very realistic computer generated style.
Yeah, of all the animations, it was the most realistic. Like, you know, like you do today. Just like the difference between old Disney movies where animation, and now they're like CGI shit. And not that it's shit. I love CGI for its own right, for its own thing. I just think for Edgar Allan Poe, because it's so classic, and because they read it in the style how it was originally written, they didn't paraphrase. I like the older styles of animation and the more simplistic styles of animation to narrate Edgar Allan Poe's work. That's just me.
Yeah. So the fifth and the final segment in the anthology was an animated version of The Mask of the Red Death.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of an oil painting feel, in my opinion. There was very little voice work. In fact, there's no
narration at all. And
there's
it's the
one
only
line, and in my opinion, that's what really ruined this whole short for me. Because like the one line that's said is said by a really incompetent actor, very poorly done. And I don't know why they would not have had that redone by somebody who could act.
I'm not going to say that it's an incompetent actor. I didn't really care for the way the line was delivered. He could have done that 12 different ways.
Actor.
But they could have done that 12 different ways, and all the ones that he did on his choice, and then they might have said it, do it this way, just a thing, and then they picked that one.
The whole point was they were describing the party in the story, and within the story, they were telling about this opulent party that was happening behind these closed gates.
And that what you have featured in this narration.
All the poor people were dying out on the streets, and
the rich people were partying inside.
Yeah, Red Death slipped through the door, walked through the rooms, and
yeah,
it was.
Well, that's why there was no narration.
So there shouldn't have been too much narration.
No, there wasn't, and that's why there wasn't. You know, Jess brought up a good point earlier. Edgar Allan Poe is so well known for his words. They picked that as the last one in the anthology, which was a questionable choice, but along with the middle segments that like glued them together, it did go along with that because they were talking about death and Edgar Allan Poe and his death.
For me, it felt flat.
I know for you it did, but like Keri said, The Mask of the Red Death, it's more describing that.
I don't think Poe ever thought his stuff would be on a movie screen.
No.
He
was
wasn't writing
describing it all.
Giving you a scene
Yeah.
that you were supposed to read.
I love that. I just feel like maybe put it in the middle.
That.
Like the illustration was beautiful. It's like a very oil painting-esque. But I still feel like maybe it was just the fact that the one line was spoken by a really shitty actor.
Well, that one line. But if you get past that one line, because that was a really bad choice on the actors/director's part, just because they either took a really
But
weird
also, again, it still feels really strange to me to end an anthology film with a short from a writer who was known for his eloquence with words, and ending his like actual anthology with a short that did not feature his words.
Well, yeah, but
it felt weird to me.
But I think it says a lot about his storytelling because it was his in The Mask of the Red Death. He's describing the scene, therefore you didn't really need narration because the animation was describing it as well. I really liked the fact that it was like they were like orgies, they were gambling, they were drinking, they were literally like a whole spa scene that were just everybody having orgies. So it was an adult animation. So if you have children that are young, don't let them watch it.
No, they're not allowed to watch it.
Or any of these movies.
Allowed to watch it or any of these movies. But this one is deceptive because it is animation. You just assume it's okay for kids. This is not. There are naked people. Naked people. But yeah,
they can see violence, but not nudity.
Yeah.
That being said, so the wraparound is a graveyard conversation between a raven, which is supposed to symbolize Poe, and a statue, which is supposed to symbolize death, whom he fears and obsesses over. Mm-hmm. I felt like the wraparound felt really short for me. I felt like the shorts were stronger than the wraparound piece, which is always a problem for me in anthology.
Well, I think the biggest reason was that was the only thing in the whole thing that wasn't Poe's words. That was written by somebody else. That is not, none of that was Poe's words, other than like they might have taken little snippets of things and like paraphrased, but that was written now. Like you could tell, like the wraparound was written it's modern. It's more modern. That is not Poe's words. They're, like I said, they might have taken a little bit of here or there, paraphrased some stuff, but that was not Poe. Whereas the anthologies, those were Poe's actual words.
They were definitely trying to embrace Poe's words.
They were trying to, but it wasn't Poe. So
what did not work for you?
I wasn't crazy about the pit and the pendulum as far as the animation went. We discussed that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little too modern for my light bitch.
Your light
Feel free to be in trouble. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I had to do that to her. That I didn't care for. Like I said, it was a little out of place, the wraparound story, just because it was obviously not Poe's work. So it was a little out of place. It wasn't, I didn't think it was terrible, but it also was out of place because it wasn't his words. Nobody can help that. Nobody's Poe. You ain't Poe. Sorry. But I really liked the music. The score was really cool, I thought.
I agree. I think the score was one of the strongest parts of the film overall.
The score was really cool. I did like the last one, the Mask of the Red Death. I really liked that one. I know she didn't really like it, but I liked it. Wasn't my favorite, but I did like it. I mean, obviously there has to be a favorite, but I liked all of them. Like even the Pit and the Pendulum, I really like that Guillermo del Toro did that one, and I liked his narration and his, I don't know, his accent just really worked for me. That one. Your what?
Neonsters.
So for me, the film overall is a fail, and it's not something that I'm comfortable recommending because I felt it was really slow, it was very boring, and it was very
It's also not that, it's not long either. It's not that long.
73 minutes, but it felt like 4 fucking hours to me. It was harder to get through than any other film that I've watched in the last like month and a half. It really was. Like, I had to take multiple breaks just to get through it because it was so slow and so boring to me. And I really do appreciate Poe's work. I've read Poe's work. I don't have this same issue trying to stay focused when I read his work. So that tells me the animation is just not doing its job. Although I did appreciate the fact that it was different animation styles. I personally liked The Pit and the Pendulum the most, followed by the final one. In terms of animation style, I still did not care enough about the stories to pay full attention. I didn't. And I wanted to because, like, again, Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi, you've got these amazing horror luminaries that are involved, but I still did not care.
Yeah. I just didn't. I didn't like that it was the vocals of Bela Lugosi were so out of place. It should have either been directly in the middle or at the end. But I understand why, story-wise, with the wraparound, they did it in the order that they did it. You know, it wasn't super the best thing, but I really liked it.
Well, I should also clarify, I typically don't like anthologies. I'm not a short film fan.
Yeah, she doesn't like shorts.
So let's just keep that clear.
I like shorts because I get bored. Real easy with long films.
I got so bored. You didn't get bored at all during this because I was bored the entire fucking time.
No, I liked it. But I'm like I said, I'm a really big Poe fan, and I really enjoyed it.
I thought I was a Poe fan. Like I've been to like the Michigan Poe places.
She's been there, so she likes him.
Right? Like, I thought I had. I thought I was. I thought I did. But, like, maybe not now.
She's been there. She likes the idea of Poe.
I do, but I also like his work in writing. But again, like, seeing it animated, I thought I'd really be down. But then I was just like,
Well, see, I thought, I don't know. I guess the words just were enough for me. And whether or not I was obsessed with the animation or not.
So I read several critical reviews of this, and everybody kind of agreed that like the actual animation style, although really well done, did not help emphasize the actual story. And I feel like if you actually break it down, the issues I have with it is exactly that. Even though the animation is well done, it doesn't help the story, and I wish it did. I wish it emphasized the story. I wish it told that narrative, and it doesn't and didn't in this actual format. But for you, it did, clearly.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know.
And also, I felt like the wraparound.
Yeah, the wraparound was questionable for me.
Even though I like the
Not my
animation style, because it's like this sort of folded paper animation style, which I thought was really unique.
It's really
and
basic. Yeah, it was
But
basic animation, which
here's
I really
the thing:
like.
I thought it was really cool looking.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I like the older styles and the more simplistic styles going with his work. That's why I didn't like the Pit and the Pendulum as much as the other ones, because that one
It's very like modern.
it's
comic
super
book.
like
Yeah.
it's almost like CGI modern, which was cool, but compared to the other ones all had their own unique, simpler, older style. Like the last one, like you said, it's more like an oil painting or something like that.
Yeah.
It's more classic, and the other one wasn't as classical. You know what I mean?
Obviously, Keri did not watch this movie, so she's gonna stay
She's
quiet.
all the way over there. She's not trying to like be like hanging with us. You're in the middle now, bitch. Wait, I'm trying to put you in the middle. Where'd you go?
You lost her. You lost her.
She's hiding.
I didn't do my homework.
That being said,
This bitch.
if you want to see this movie, I'm
It's
going to link it
your
down below.
husband's
You can find it on Netflix right now, as well as a myriad of other platforms. It came out in 2015. It's a series of shorts that are tied together with
If you
like
like
a wraparound
Poe,
story.
watch it. If you're not a Poe fan, I don't think you're gonna dig it.
And or if you do appreciate like older cinema, because I do think like the Bela Lugosi story is actually worthwhile watching. And for the record, that actual story did do the festival circuit, just like that short.
That's its own thing with the animation and stuff
Yeah.
too. Oh,
So it's done its rounds, but then came to be a part of this anthology series. But that being said, I can see if you're a fan of Poe's work to
Yeah.
like get a level of enjoyment out of the series.
yes, I did. I liked it.
I did not, because I'm not a huge fan of Poe's work.
She said she was, and then she wasn't. I don't know.
I appreciate him, but I'm not a huge fan. For me, this
That's
was
why
a
you didn't
huge
like it,
miss.
because you don't like a shit.
But this is a miss. I just felt like it was a waste of my time.
You don't like it.
So if you're a super fan of Poe's, like Dani, check it out.
You
I
like
think you'll find merit.
Shakespeare?
I do love Shakespeare. Shakespeare and Poe are two very different authors.
I know,
for the
but-
record.
I was just asking.
Shakespeare, I'm down with. Poe, not so much. That being said,
Very two different things, but it's both classical literature. So
well, that could describe hundreds of authors.
yeah.
That
I
being
just
said,
didn't know if you were a fan of classical literature.
I am,
That's
but
what
not Poe apparently.
Apparently
Not
you
enough
don't
to
like Poe.
suffer through this boring
It's
anthology.
funny because Poe is fucked up.
I mean, I appreciate that it's fucked
Fucked
up,
up.
but I just don't like the fact that it
It's not
takes
sad.
forever to get there. I don't need to hear like 65 minutes to get to where I need to be.
Back then,
Yawn.
well, you were a very instant gratification kind of person, and back then there was nothing else to do. They didn't have social media. They didn't have to like, oh, I have to be on social media. I have to Twitter,
That's
and
not
I
my
have
fault.
to. Well, I'm just saying that's why you don't like it.
I mean, I feel like I don't like it for a lot of reasons. So, would you recommend it to others?
If they're Poe fans, yes.
Okay, I would not.
If you're
I
not
would
a-
not recommend it to anyone. Just don't watch it. Just don't. No, say
But
no.
you're not a
say
Poe
no.
fan.
But even if you're not, it's just really fucking boring. Keri, don't watch it. Do not watch it.
I think you should
I might
watch
just have
it.
to
This
watch
is
it now.
fucking.
She's totally gonna watch it.
I'm
Who's she gonna
absolutely
listen
gonna watch
to?
it.
You're me. Me.
I just ran out of time. If I had known it was
yeah.
Poe, I would have watched it
Boring.
first.
Yeah.
It's boring.
I actually watched it before I watched Bird Box. Because,
Netflix, you owe me like $3 for spending my time watching it. Send the
you
check
didn't pay for that
to-
shit.
I fucking paid for my Netflix subscription.
And you watch everything else.
Let's
on
be
fucking
honest, nobody
Netflix.
pays for their Netflix.
Shut up. You're right. Thank you, Jack. You pay for my
I
Netflix.
pay for my
I still feel
Netflix,
like you should
goddammit.
fucking. Do you? You're adorable. I love that you do.
It's Netflix. It's just supposed to pay for it.
I mean,
Someone has to.
somebody is paying
Yeah.
for it. It's fine. I'm not.
I pay for mine. Well, technically, Jeremy Curtis does, so I don't pay for mine.
Yeah, you don't pay for yours either.
No,
And you
but-
have questionable taste.
no, I don't.
Yeah.
I've
like
seen the
this
movies you
movie?
like. I don't think so.
Okay. So that being said, she'd recommend it. I wouldn't. She hasn't seen it. So
She hasn't seen it. She likes Poe. Would you tell somebody to read Edgar Allan Poe?
Absolutely.
All right, unless they're Jessica Cameron and
I would read the books. Don't
She-
actually fucking watch this film on Netflix.
But you don't
It's a
like.
tough,
You
tough
just said you're not a
pass.
Poe fan.
No, I'm not enough of a fan to put up with this bullshit. No.
Oh, you don't like theater. You don't like Poe. How are we friends?
I like good theater. I like solid Poe. This is neither of the above.
It's Poe.
It's poorly done Poe.
Poorly done Poe.
Poor Poe. It's not Poe.
It's not Poe. It's Poe.
That being said, if you like us, if you like this video, don't forget to like button down below and also subscribe. I produce new videos every week. And 10 billion bonus points if you join our Patreon, where we produce better quality films than this Poe anthology.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Cheers.
Bye. But we have boobs.